So one of the things I also wanted to talk about was, I mean, with the charter and the firefighters, I mean, we have a charter review commission. They were meeting publicly for months and months, and I don't remember this issue coming up at the charter review commission.
No. You mean those 3 proposals?
Right, at all, because we had public meetings throughout the city, and they didn't come and bring them up.
They want to disrupt the normal procedure.
And the fire union has a pretty good handle on what's going to get the city's goat. I mean, first of all, the streetcar, and then secondly, they've understood that among a lot of people in San Antonio, Cheryl Scully's salary is a hot button issue. So they're bringing this before the city. Now, how dangerous, the mayor used the expression, they're going to burn the city down, which I thought was an interesting expression to use in relation to the firefighters union.
Well, here's some of the irony. Here's some of the irony to that, I would think, is when you look at the most recent couple of mayoral elections and who had their support and who didn't, and who won and who did not. So maybe the sway is not as overwhelming as some might think.
You mean as far as who they endorsed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So,
It's changing the government, changing the form of government.
Yes,
and
it
that's
really
something
is.
that we were talking about with the Charter Review Commission, either going from council manager or strong mayor. Those are all conversations.
And Chris Steele said something at this press conference that I thought was telling. He said that City Council does not properly represent the citizens of San Antonio. And so that's when your entire philosophy is underpinned by this notion that council members do not represent who they are elected to represent, then you can just throw everything out, you know?
In the On the Record segment today, Councilman Brockhouse was talking about the people he talked to, and he comes to City Council from a position that people dislike and distrust City Hall. Councilwoman, do you feel that? And if so, what can be done about that?
Well, yes, absolutely, I feel that. But what has been done, especially what I've been working on, is when you're face to face and you're in those town hall meetings, when you meet with your community, they have that relationship with you. And once they build those relationship ties with you, all of those other thoughts or the distrust just falls away. It seeps away because they're building that relationship. So I would say we are the best representatives of our district because they are the ones that we are knocking on their doors, shaking hands, and building relationship with.
Brian, do you feel that there's a sense in the community that what happens at City Hall is happening apart from the community, that the community's voice is not heard, that the things that they want to see done are not being done?
I mean, I just think you have, I think the people who are at this press conference standing in front of City Hall calling for these charter amendments, I think they represent a minority of the community, frankly, of folks who have grievances with city government and who love to hate the city. And I don't think that represents most of people in San Antonio.
Councilwoman, we were talking earlier about your impassioned plea for gender equity and more women and prominent positions in city government. Are you willing to go the extra mile? Are you considering running for mayor yourself at some point in the future?
You never say never about anything, and you always have to keep your options open. I will say, in my first 6 months on council, I didn't know that Julian Castro was going to step down and run and go for Secretary of HUD. And so that opens up all of these different dynamics. So you never know what can happen in the next couple of months or years, and that's all I'll say about that.
Scott, we've been talking about the economic impact of some of the mayor's proposals. Light rail has been defeated soundly twice in the community. The mayor said, he told us in his news conference after his State of the City speech, that this does not necessarily mean light rail. He's talking about what he refers to as trackless rail, which is a system that is being pioneered in China. It seems like every time we report on transportation, we just get a flurry of negatives. Austin, Dallas, Houston, all have light rail systems. What is it about San Antonio that whenever those two words are uttered, it's like an obscenity that people just do not want to hear it?
Vernacular, the words street and car, and the fact that they continue, and maybe not anymore, but have continued to be used in the dialogue when that not necessarily is the path being pursued. To your point, trackless may very well be in San Antonio's future. It has nothing to do with a street and a car or a streetcar. Sometimes changing the dialogue is as big a hurdle as the actual dialogue.
And Councilwoman Villagrán, you remember back in 2000 when we defeated light rail. Have things changed? I mean, the mayor made the point that our commutes are going to extend by 75%. Has the situation changed to the point where you think there could be support for the mayor's bold initiatives? I guess a lot of it depends on how we pay for it.
I think that's exactly right, how we're intending to pay for it. But then, yes, people are seeing the congestion starting, and people want to be able to read or talk on their phones, and you can't do that if you're driving a car anymore. So if there's a way for us to more efficiently move people than cars, and I think people will make that transition over. And if you talk to anybody about, yes, streetcar, but if you say if you could have some sort of a rail to go from San Antonio to Austin, people would say, yes, we need that, we need that. But there's all of those other fun things in between San Antonio and Austin.
But then again, we've tried repeatedly to build Lone Star Rail, and that didn't get anywhere. Brian, where's the political will for this? I mean, it's one thing to unveil a proposal, but it's something else to get down in the trenches, roll up your sleeves, and have it happen. Can we do it this time?
Well, he sure has appointed a lot of influential people to this organization. I think, at least on the board, I think there's a board, and then there's the actual nonprofit. But Ina Minjarez, the state rep, Jose Menendez, the state senator's involved.
Henry Cisneros.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if you collect enough influential voices, there very well could be.
You brought up Cisneros. That shouldn't be lost on anybody in the conversation. I think he's pursuing some of that Cisneros path, the political will you're talking about, having the courage to sometimes do what you know you need to do, even if it means having to convince enough people to get it done.
And another problem is we're maxed out on the sales tax. We can't use that. There are areas of revenue that we just cannot tap. And the big question is, Councilwoman Villagrán, does VIA have to fill the buses first? I mean, a lot of people talk to me, I'll support mass transit when I don't see see-through buses driving down my street, when I see buses being filled. Is that a responsibility, since the mayor put it on VIA and says VIA will run it? Does that have to come first? Is that the chicken that has to come before the egg?
I think it's a whole paradigm shift in thinking of transportation, because we're increasing the frequency, and when we see that frequency pick up, you'll see better ridership, and then we'll move that. But I think you're on the right path, saying we need to see an increase in ridership in order to, and that's going to take more frequency to get those who see it as your first choice of transportation.
And then again, there's a significant proposal that Jeff Arndt is floating, which I think is a fantastic idea, to set up an Uber-type service to get you from the bus stop to the front of your workplace, the last mile. Many people I talk to say I take the bus, but I don't want to walk in 140-degree heat in my 3-inch heels. From the bus stop to my law office or whatever. Ideas like that are really outside the box, Scott.
Yeah, it's about using these transportation hubs, getting people between these hubs, and then getting them from those hubs to their end point. That last mile being a way to do that.
Well, thank you all very much. The conversation continues, and thanks to everybody who joined us on social media. It's been very interesting, and thank you once again for joining us today on The Conversation.
Thank you.